Sid Fizzard, Rebel News journalist, was just in Battle River Crowfoot. Sid's gonna have to turn on his camera. There he is. He was in Battle River Crowfoot over the weekend to do some streeters, as they say, in the riding. Sid, how's it going? What are your predictions for the election results tonight? Is he going to stay above 80?
I suspect he's probably going to stay above 80. But it was it was funny. We bumped into him in Drumheller. I was there doing some streeters, trying to talk to people in the riding to see how they feel about Pierre Poilievre coming to town, and then found out that Pierre was going to be in town. So stuck around, and he was able to give me an interview after doing his meet and greet. So that was a good time. And I encourage you guys to check out that full report as well.
So tell us what the people had to say. Are they as offended as Bonnie Critchley that Poilievre has come back home to Alberta to run? Or are they fine?
There's definitely a large amount of understanding. There's people that are, of course, in support of the idea for reasons of the fact that, well, now you're going to have a leader of the official opposition being a candidate, soon to be member of parliament for an Alberta riding. So there's hope there that there'll be a spotlight on these issues. And I think the flip side of that, this is a presumption on my part, that Alberta electors are going to hold Poilievre more accountable than perhaps the constituents in Carleton back in Ottawa. That's the speculation on my part, but that I suspect it's going to go that way.
Yeah, I think Alberta voters expect our Conservatives to be hardline conservative, and that's one of the things that Grant Abraham talked about when we had him on the show to sort of explain some of the points that he was trying to make during the debate, which are probably not something to be made during a debate. And it's that there are different types of conservatives in this country. There are Doug Ford conservatives, which I would not call conservative at all. And then there are Daniel Smith conservatives, and they might share a suffix, but they don't share a lot of the same values. I see Chris nodding along. Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, I'm pointing out that you can often call different people different things based on the name of their party. But when it comes down to really tough stuff, like from the taxpayer's perspective, things like fiscal responsibility, fiscal discipline, like that is really it's a non-breakable thing. And so that is why we're urging Pierre Poilievre, if and when he takes his seat, to keep on urging the government to pay down the debt, to keep fighting the debt, because we are spiraling into a debt crisis. Dan McTagg, I just had him on the show earlier today, and he said that this is actually going to wind up being a worse debt crisis than we had in the early 90s. And if that's the case, that's yeah, I hear you, because you're in Saskatchewan, right?
It was such a mass exodus out of Saskatchewan. If you wanted any opportunity, you were heading to Alberta.
You guys closed 50 rural hospitals.
Yes.
Out of
that was
sheer
under the
pain.
NDP.
Yeah.
The
Under the NDP. Yeah.
Well, they ran out of room. To be honest, they ran out of borrowing room. And that was also because of previous governments provincially under Saskatchewan. So they just ran out of space. So much so that international creditors said no more money. It's like one of those scenes from an old movie in the 1940s where the bank teller pulls down the roller and says, go home. So if Dan McTagg is warning that we are spiraling into a worse national debt crisis than then, and he's a smart cookie. So he was a member of parliament under Prime Minister Jean Chrétien when Paul Martin was the finance minister, back when Paul Martin slayed the deficit and actually started balancing the budget. McTagg saw all of that go down. And he's saying we're going to run into something worse. So for folks to call themselves conservative, I personally think that they have to be dedicated to smaller, less government that costs less money, that balances the budget and commits themselves to lower taxes. I don't see that in Ontario Premier Doug Ford, even though they're called conservatives.
And may I just add to that? When it comes to conservatives, and obviously they lost the last federal election, the big question I have for them is, much like they were advocating for back during the election, is, well, what change are they going to bring now? How are they going to get to the point where they figured out how to do a great leader of the official opposition? Poilievre touts the carbon tax, that having been gotten rid of. Trudeau and the public pressure that saw him resigning before his term was up. But how are they going to get to that next step? What are they going to do so that they're not just good at being a good critic of the government, but taking the reins? You know, how are they going to get to that next step? Locking it in, as opposed to, you know, another unfortunate loss, as many of them saw this one.
So just to game that out, I'll take off my Taxpayers Federation hat and put on my political journalist hat, and I've been in the game for a long time. The last election was odd because the NDP basically ceased to exist.
Mm-hmm.
So like the wheels on the bus flew off. They rolled into Lake Huron like they were gone. The bus was smoking on the side of the highway. So what the Conservatives usually count on is for the left, okay, the NDP as an actual party, to get around 12 to 15-ish% of the vote, okay?
Yeah.
If they can get around that amount, Pierre Poilievre is a majority prime minister. But the NDP basically disappeared. And that was for several reasons, I would argue. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, I would describe as a very, very like big L left-wing liberal type prime minister, legalizing marijuana, going through all sorts of stuff, totally spending. To be fair, I have seen much more fiscally disciplined New Democrat governments at provincial levels than I saw in the liberal prime minister of Trudeau. So it isn't even a partisan thing, but he just ate that entire side, the left-wing part of that spectrum. So there was no NDP vote at all. And so that was a huge factor. And so I think if there's some, you know, charismatic, interesting NDP leader next time around, I think that you'll see the math kind of work out more likely in the Conservatives' favor. But you never know. You could have another weird situation like President Donald Trump making a joke about 51st state, and then all hell breaks loose again. And then nobody's talking about the fact that we've doubled the debt or that Trudeau has robbed us with the carbon tax. So
yeah, I think that's a really great assessment. I mean, one of the many keys to Stephen Harper's success was Thomas Mulcair, because the NDP had a not total crazy person running their party. Now, I would probably disagree with Thomas Mulcair on 99.5% of things, not everything. You know, sometimes his assessment of his fellow lefties seems to be spot on, but he was at least not an absolute lunatic and didn't feel like an intellectual lightweight. Wrong, but didn't feel stupid. And that has not been the case in a very long time for the NDP. And what we saw was Trudeau in all his elections, really, including the one where he rose to power in 2015, he outflanked the NDP on the left. He basically abandoned the middle, where the Conservatives usually fight with the Liberals over voters, and just went all in on the left. And so it was just a safe spot wherever you were on the progressive spectrum to land. And that was, I think, the key to Justin Trudeau's electoral success. So
if I can just jump in quickly, the late leader of the NDP, Jack Layton, with whom I disagree with a lot of politics, but straight up, I worked on Parliament Hill as a producer for years and years. He was always a really nice man. He used to come on Sun News Network. You can probably talk to Ezra about it. Yeah. So to his credit, Jack Layton opposed the carbon tax, like big time, and for all of the right reasons, because it was a huge tax on the working poor. It was punishment for people driving to work and heating their homes. You can go look this up. It was in the Globe and Mail in 2008. You don't get more mainstream media than that. Jack Layton was principally opposed to things like that because, in his view, he was standing up for working people. I did not see that kind of language coming out of Jagmeet Singh's NDP at all, ever. And that is even in private, like, come on, man, leveling conversations with longtime MPs with the NDP. We would try to talk to them saying, could you at least argue to take the carbon tax off home heating bills? Crickets, nothing. You couldn't get them to budge. And so so that's the situation that we've had recently. If you get somebody in there at the NDP who is interesting to the left and charismatic, I can see those numbers going back up, especially if they're campaigning against the central banker rich guy thing, which is what Prime Minister Carney is.
And the one thing
ahead,
that we
Lisa.
don't have anymore, excuse me, is the supply confidence agreement between the NDP and the Liberal Party. And it just goes to show you, Chris, when you're talking about begging the NDP to please call for the carbon tax to be rescinded, and they refused. Well, that was the strength of the supply and confidence agreement between the NDP and the Liberals. But I can't be compelled to think that instead of a coalition of left-wing parties like they pulled in, France real recently. So Marie Le Pen of the Rally National Party of France was poised to win the election, exactly like Pierre Poilievre was, right? She was leading by a 20% margin until all of the left-wing parties established a coalition to beat her at the very last minute. You can't compel me to think that this didn't happen by managed collapse of the NDP, because Jagmeet Singh, for all of his flaws, was no Jack Layton. Okay, that man was in it for his pension and his pension alone, and he didn't give a crap about the party after the election. So what I think happened was there was a little agreement in the background. Well, if the NDP really tanks, and it looks like they are, well, then we'll just take all your votes by default, said the Liberal Party of Canada. Just real helpful. You know what I mean? Well, we'll take all your votes where you leave off Jagmeet. You can ride into the sunset with your $1 million pension. But I feel like it was a little bit of a coup by the left-wing political parties in Canada, what happened in our election.
I'm going to bring Sid back into the conversation because his friend and mine, Rachel Notley, is my personal favorite to run to replace Jagmeet Singh. And it's not because I like her. It's not because I think that she would be a good choice. It is because she is seen as a not radical. She's seen as a prairie pragmatist, even though in practice she's not. But for the NDP to be taken seriously again, they need a leader who could be taken seriously. She checks a lot of boxes that the left seems to care about.
Sure. The diversity boxes.
She's a woman. She's from the West, which is, I think, kind of important now because she cracked Fortress Alberta. I would love her to run for the federal NDP. I would love that. I would personally love that. I would be definitely in favor of that because it would draw voters away from Carney. Sid, what do you think?
Well, I was very disappointed with the NDP, not for their political leaning, but for the fact that during the election, they decided that their mission statement was going to be getting the Liberals elected, as opposed to representing the values that their voters want them to vote for. So if Ms. Notley is the one to bury the federal NDP into non-existence, then you know what? I would fully back that. But having bumped into her, she's quite hostile.
You don't have to tell me.
Yeah, she's got a lot of flame per square inch, I guess you could say. So
her BTUs are in the thousands.
Yeah, she's no Jack Layton, I'll tell you that much. Jack Layton would talk to anybody. He didn't demonize his political enemies. He thought they were wrong or they didn't see things his way, but he didn't think they were necessarily evil. And that's not how Rachel Notley sees things. But
Stephen Harper cried when Jack Layton died.
Yeah, for sure he did.
Like for real.
Yeah.
Like in the House of right there, I saw him in the foyer of the House of Commons, and that's when he called for a state funeral. So
yeah,
again,
for a third party leader.
Sure. Like, I read Atlas Shrugged. I disagree with him. Like, I'm pro-capitalist. Sure. But he was always a friendly person. He was never a jerk. He didn't talk down to people. And he kept this kind of funny coalition of who I would call kind of bike riding, downtown, urbanite, greenie types, along with more of the Bill Blakey, Boilermaker, lunch bucket, steel-toed set. I have not seen that since. Curious, while we're busy, are we shopping for an NDP leader tonight while we're waiting for the final results? I think that's a good use of our time.
I would like to.
So Wab Kinew speaks French, eh?
Yes, yes.
He's perfectly bilingual. The dude can
a
move
lot of
through
boxes
3 different languages. Yep. Like, yeah.
He ticks like 7 or 8 diversity boxes, Chris. 7
And to
or
be
8.
honest, like just straight up, I haven't met him in person, but I watch him on camera just as like, in the game. The guy's got charisma. He's got good
Great
camera on camera
communicator.
appeal. Sorry?
He's a great communicator. I thought his tone with the Americans was
Yep.
great. He was sort of like, "Hey, we don't have to fight." Like that was, and I was like, "Yes, exactly."
That's the
Again,
smart thing to say.
I disagree with him on probably 80% of things, but his tone was right with the Americans, and I agree with you. He is charismatic on camera. He is not a weaponized nerd like Mark
No.
Carney.
I think it might be worth mentioning, now's a good time, that he has some music that he made before
Oh.
stepping into politics.
He's a former
I don't know if
rapper.
we're allowed to play
He was
his
a
rap
rapper. Yeah.
song,
Yeah,
but that's awesome.
he's got quite a redemption arc, actually.
Which
Almost
fits
an
a rap song.
almost
Rap
an
songs all about
unreal-
redemption arcs, man.
But
Yeah.
you just gotta wonder, okay? You just gotta wonder what forces are at play that would allow a redemption arc as spectacular as Wab Kinew's. Because for all intents and purposes, Wab Kinew was going down all the wrong paths, okay?
Mhm.
All of them in his early years. And then all of a sudden emerges this sort of godlike figure from the ashes of the NDP to take over the entire province of Manitoba. And unlike you guys, who I kind of hear saying that you appreciate some of Wab Kinew's attributes, I don't trust the man. I don't trust the man.
No.
If you're in orange, you're untrustworthy to me. Okay. You will say anything to get those votes. You will say anything and then immediately do the exact wrong thing. That he is represented by orange makes him bad man. He's orange man bad.
Orange man.
Orange man bad.
Okay,
It's
okay,
Wab
but before-
Kinew in Canada for me.
I realize we have our next guest in the waiting room, but
Sheila?
yeah, go ahead.
One thing for us,
Yeah.
I think what we have to wear a hair shirt here for a second as the Albertans who are on the
Yeah.
panel right now.
Mhm,
Sid, are you
mhm.
physically in Alberta right now?
Yes.
Certainly
Okay.
am.
All right. Well,
He's
the
a
three
relocated one.
Albertans, Wab Kinew is beating us on gas taxes.
Oh, I know.
Manitoba has got the cheapest gas taxes in all of Canada. It is beating Saskatchewan, you rectangle people out there, Elise,
Yeah.
and Alberta. So I'm just saying. Now, I don't know why a premier of an whole province would want to step into the fixer-upper to pimp the ride of the NDP federally, but stranger things have happened. And weirder redemption arcs have happened before. So I'm just saying, guy's perfectly trilingual. He speaks English, French, and I forget which First Nations language he speaks.
Like I
I'm
said,
I'm
7
not
or
going to
8
vote for him.
Yeah, 7 or 8 diversity boxes, and that gets you a long way in left-leaning politics. So let's not. I'm not counting him out. I'm just saying I don't trust him.
I think we have our next guest in the
Okay.
waiting room.
I'll jump off.
Okay, Chris, thank you so much for everything today. From early this morning to late tonight, you've really been a lifesaver. I can't tell you how much I appreciate you. Before you go, tell people how they can find your work for the CTF.
Oh, perfect. So taxpayer.com, you can sign our petitions against things like PST on used cars because it's a disgusting attack on the working poor. You can sign a petition against media being funded by the government. And you can also read up on our Gas Tax Honesty Day report, which includes the fact that Manitoba has got the lowest gas taxes in all of Canada. So thank you so much, Premier Wab Kinew.
All right, Chris, thanks so much. Sid, sorry you didn't get very many words in edgewise, but you jumped on a panel with 3 other women. So what do you expect? Okay, thank you, Sid. Keep up the great work.
Let me just add one final note
Yeah,
before we go
please jump
here.
on for a second. Yeah, please.
That is Elections Canada. I did email them when the longest ballot committee caused them to change the layout of the ballot, and they said for tonight, we quote, "We do expect that counting may take somewhat longer." And they also said they will continue until all results are posted, so it might be fairly late. And as to a final, more positive note than that, I think we're almost at the time in society where Rob Ford can be reconstructed in AI without the negative side and brought back to be the mayor of Toronto again.
Yeah, but I want the fun side too.
I want
I want them all.
full-fledged, Rob Ford. I
All
want
of it.
original recipe Rob Ford. Yeah.
Yeah, not new Coke, Rob Ford. didn't
That
mean
has
that
so
joke
many
at
different
all.
meanings.
I
Yeah.
didn't mean that pun at all until I said it. Okay, Sid, thanks so much for jumping on the show. Thanks so much for working hard in Battle River Crowfoot over the
Yeah, buddy.
weekend. We'll see you in the morning.
Appreciate
Bright
it. Cheers,
and
guys.
early. Bye.